All right, guys, it's that time again for the Cover Price Top 10 1 year later, except a lot of the stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago is on the same list, so we switched it up on you. How about we go back 2 years? All right, guys, we're going to crack into this list. It comes to us from our friends over at Covrprice.com. Again, we're going to go back 2 years in this video. Why? Because the 1 year ago video kind of has a lot of the same books, and we already covered that about 2 weeks ago. So instead, let's go back 2 years. Hopefully, you guys remember it. And if you're new to the hobby, wait till you see how much some of these books have grown. Let's start off with number 10. This is Venom number 3, the third print. This time 2 years ago, Null was just starting to get hot. However, it was his recent appearance in Silver Surfer Black that really lit the fuse. This third print saw new sudden interest and sold for $25 raw with a new high of $150 in a CGC 9.8, up from $60. 2 years later. What a journey this book has had. While it's technically not his first cover, this issue contains his first appearance. Yet due to scarcity, it quickly became the go-to book for speculation that the markings in Cletus Cassidy's jail cell resemble ones connected to Null, among others. While a stretch, there's still some residual heat due to this. Today, Raws sell for $200 and 9/8 are selling for $450. While a significant drop from Null's all-time high, it was still a great investment 2 years ago. This is a big boost as long as you bought it in 2019. I remember this, that the heat behind this book was crazy. I remember talking to my boy Jay from Pressable Defects, and he was so excited that he was able to find not only a first print, but a second print and a third print of this book. Now, I have a stack of first prints, Venom numbers 3. I don't have a second or third print, never found any in the wild, never was able to find any at any LCSs in my area. But of course, hey, not the end of the world. Maybe someday I'll come across it. Still a great book to hold on to. Null is a big time character. I don't think he's gone. I think he's coming back. I do. He was too cool and had too much of a following and too much of a fan base to just kill him off. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Let's go down to number 9. I think you may have heard of this book before. This is Incredible Hulk 181. Now, the first full appearance of Wolverine has always been a high demand first appearance. 2 years ago, Disney's acquisition of Fox was only 4 months old at this point. Collectors were just starting to think about investing in mutants, specifically Wolverine. Copies of his first were flying off eBay with high raw sales of $2,777 and a high CGC 9.2 sale of $7,300. 2 years later, we're in a whole new ballgame. 2 years later, and Hulk 181 prices have doubled and then some. A 9.4 recently sold for $50,000, which means a bump is coming for these 9.2s, and they're just going to keep coming for the foreseeable future. Massive boost. Guys, I remember being able to buy these books for $1,000 in like 8.0s, 8.5s. Crazy. Now, look at these numbers, and it just isn't stopping. I mean, what happens? What really happens if we see any type of tease? Now, we just got a little bit of tease from Boss Logic and Kevin Feige and Hugh Jackman. Let's see if we get a little bit of bump in that Hulk 181. I have no idea if Hugh Jackman is coming to the MCU, even if it's just for a simple little cameo. I kind of hope he does just for a cameo. I think that'd be kind of cool. But I do believe we need a new Wolverine, just my opinion. A younger Wolverine, no offense. Hugh's done it. We're done. We're good. We're done. Let's move on. But this book has always been hot. Always, always, always. And remember, I know you guys know this, but I'm just reminding you, there is a Marvel value stamp in that book. So if you find that book raw, make sure you flip through and make sure all the stamps and coupons are in it. Just remember that. And with that, let's go to number 8. This is Batman Damned number 1. And in 2018, Batman Damned was the hottest book. It dominated Covrprice's top 10 for months. Then in 2019, when issue 3 finally came out, it once again made collectors chase this first issue. Raws sold for $80, had a high sale of $300 for a CGC 10.0. Which was incredibly common for this book, hence the low value for such a high grade. While it's not talked about as much 2 years, despite way slower sales, this book has done okay. Raws now have a fair market value of about $58, and a 10.0 now sells for $510. Folks still love that shadowy Batwing. Boost for graded, slight drop for raw. This book was crazy hot. I remember being at New York Comic Con, paying somebody for a 10.0, and then immediately turning around and selling it. It was like within an hour of buying and selling. It was crazy. People wanted it. I wish I had one for my PC. I ended up selling them all. Probably something I'll target, but they're out there. These books are out there. I am glad, though, it never went to a second print. I thought that was kind of cool. They were talking about it, but let's go down. How about number 7? This is Inhumans number 5. 2 years ago, it was announced that Florence Pugh, I cannot be saying that right, would be playing the role of Yelena Belova in MCU's Black Widow. This news caused her cameo appearance in this issue to move first with a high raw sale of $55 and $400 for a 9.8. 2 years later, while we still have yet to see her live and in action, we're pretty close, guys. We are very, very close. Her portrayal of Yelena has already been met with high praise. This has lifted Raws to a fair market value of $150, $725 for a 9.8. This is a boost. We've been boosting now every book so far on this list. Black Widow's right around the corner, guys. I mean, it's days away if you're watching this video when I put it out. Days away. Fingers crossed that it's as good as, the reviews have been spectacular. So, yeah, this book is all over the place, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap. How about number 6? This is Omega Men number 3. The first appearance of the main man was seeing some boosted attention from persistent rumors that The Rock would be playing him in the DCEU, causing sales to pick up with raw sales around $30 and high sale of $300 for 9.8. 2 years later, we now know this wasn't true, as he is clearly playing Black Adam in Shazam 2. Despite this, his market value still continued to increase, hitting today's $75 raw, $400 for 9.8. Granted, this was an undervalued first appearance that may just be seeing a market correction. Another boost on this list. I find this book all over the place, and I have always thought it was very undervalued. Very undervalued. We're talking about a nice DC character here. I mean, people love Lobo, the main man. We're going down. We're going to move quick tonight. Number 5. This is Silver Surfer Black number 1, the second print. Having Null on the cover, moved a ton of copies this time last year, with raw sales at 23 and a high sale of 160 and a 9.8. 2 years later, it was clear many expected this to reach the levels that Venom 3 third print did. However, prices have surprisingly held. Raw fair market value is still 23. 9.8's getting a slight jump to 180. This is kind of a break-even move here, guys. If you bought it, you didn't lose money, you didn't make money, but at the same time, maybe you bought it just because you wanted the book and you weren't looking to sell it. If so, your investment is the same. Perfect. No big deal. Moving down, number 4. This is Canto, number 1, the Robles 1 in 10 variant. Last year, we noted how this book was simply a fun story with great art, which was the sole driving reason for high sales. This time last year, over 40 copies of this hard-to-find variant sold in 1 week with a high sale of $75 raw, $100 for a CGC 9.8. It was a pre-sale, but still. 2 years later, yeah, wow, Canto is one of the most valuable books on shelves today. Raw sell for $280 plus, with near mint copies fetching over $500. 9.8s now sell for over $1,000. So yeah, not a bad investment. huge boost on this one, guys. Canto number 1. This is the 1 in 10. I don't have a lot to say about this because I don't come across this book ever. So granted, it's also only a couple years old, but still. We're not done with Canto, but instead we're going to go to number 3. I remember this too very well. This is Marvel Comics Presents number 5. 2 years ago, the market was all over the first appearance of Wolvie's daughter, Rain. After appearing in 2 panels and narrating the story, collectors helped this reach $30 raw, and a few months later, a high 9.8 for $150. 2 years later, the market let this one go. Raws have dropped to $16. 9/8 sell around $77. It's really hard to say what this character can do long term. All she needs is the right writer to bring her to X23 type status, which is going to be tough to do. As of now, this is a bust. But sometimes these bust books are just an opportunity to make money. $77 for a 9.8 of a first appearance of a character? I'll do it. I'll take it. Not a bad deal at all. Let's go down to number 2. We talked about Canto. Let's do it again. This is Canto number 1. 2 years ago, this 1 week old series was the surprise hit of the month. A cute and fun story with great art helped sell a big 126 copies, with raws hitting $25 and a high sale of $80 for a 9.8. Widespread damage of this comic were reported by retailers, making high-grade copies harder to find. 2 years later, this series is a massive hit. Raws sell for $188 plus. 9/8s are getting around $808 with a high for as much as $1,200 just in March. We also know that those widespread damages were true, and near mint copies sell for a huge premiums. So yeah, 2 years later, this is a huge boost. So not only the 1 in 10, but the actual number 1. It doesn't hurt that it probably had a low print run to begin with, and then you had damaged copies on top of it. This is a primo book to find, guys. I've never read it, so I can't even get into the story, but there's a reason why it has such a following. It's the art, it's the story, a lethal combination. Keep an eye out. They're not cheap. I'm going to look for these at future conventions just to see if I can find any. Last but not least, we're going to go down to number 1. I just wanted to remind everybody that this list came to us from Covrprice.com. And with that, let's go to number 1. This is Marvel Comics Presents number 6. We knew 2 years ago, as we still know today, that new characters can really sell books. The full reveal of Wolverine's daughter in this issue sold a massive 396 copies this time 2 years ago, with a high raw sale of $75 and $250 in a 9.8 in August of 2 years ago. Back then, this 396 sales was a new record for Covrprice, which is still unbroken today. 2 years later, no one really seems to mention this book anymore, despite holding it in price. Raws have dipped a bit to $50. 9/8s have held to $250. Break even. Another one, guys. You had the cameo. You have the first full appearance. We're talking about Wolverine's daughter. $250. I've invested more in worse things. So that's our top 10 list from 2 years ago. So I'm going to break it down for you right here. It's all written out. We're going to talk money. Overall, if you would have invested in each book on this top 10 at its market price 1 year ago, it would have cost you a very hefty $3,195 raw and $9,190 graded, thanks to Wolverine. Today, these books would now sell for $5,740 raw and a huge $18,526 graded. This is, of course, driven by the power of Wolverine's first. However, still, graded, you would have doubled your profits at $9,336. I guess it's true. It takes money to make money. So overall, what did you think of this week's 2 years later? Should we do more, mix it up every other week? Either way, come back for the next show as we look at Covrprice's top 10 1 year later or 2. That was 2 years ago at those prices. $3,195 raw, $9,190 graded. You would have made a lot of money 2 years ago. Not bad. Guys, we do want to hear from you. And of course, make sure you check out coverprice.com and see what's on their current top 10 and the various trending movers and shakers list, and come back for the next show. Let's see how the books did 1 year later or 2. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you. And as always, keep it comics.